Morning. So day one, 34 miles to do today. Weather's not great, but we plod on. It could be worse. It's not bouncing off the ground yet, but it does make it a little bit more skiddy, so we'll see how we get on. But we've got board ready, so we've got the big fat wheels on it so we can get over any pebbles so we don't kill ourselves before we start. But I've switched out a little bit from the trial run. So the trial run I had that thing, which is a little bit wider than I'm normally used to. So there was a couple of times where I nearly went flying forwards because I caught my foot when I was pushing. So I've swapped it out for normal deck that I'm used to riding, so I don't have to worry about catching my foot and falling forwards and things like that. So route today, we're heading out down the coast along Blythe seafront, along Whitley Bay, down to the ferry landing, and from the ferry landing round a few places in South Shields. So I'll be stopping at various times, sharing some memories about Mam, and yeah, so 34 miles today, and then a few other places to go, and a nice long trip to Prudhoe on Wednesday, where hopefully the weather will be a bit better. I won't be cheating, so the distance on the ferry will be added to the end. I'll just stick that on the end. Maybe a bit difficult riding a skateboard on the ferry. I'll give it a go though, we'll see. Alright, time to go. I'll see you soon. Alright, on my way, going through Ridley Park in Blythe. It is miserable. You can't tell, but it's horrible. Like, just that fine rain. So, we'll see how long we go before the emergency poncho comes out. I don't think it'll be long, but again, it could be worse. More in than I. Hi everyone, so just under an hour in, so at the top of the bank by the Delaval Arms. We've now got the bank down to St Mary's Lighthouse, which last time I did this was the worst ground ever. Just potholes, pebbles, rocks, just awful. So not looking forward to this bit. It stopped raining for now, I think. Nearly had to put the poncho on before. It's kind of just teasing me, but and I don't know what's rain and what's wet, to be honest. So right, let's get this down and then we can get along the seafront. So this is me going downhill. I'm not going anywhere fast. It's absolutely awful. Even pushing, you kind of don't really go very far. And I think it kind of goes all the way down there until we get to like the caravan park. So let's get moving. This is the nice bit, if there is a nice bit. Alright, so I'm here outside Tynemouth Priory. It's got a bit moist, so definitely time for the emergency poncho. Board's a bit wet, pretty grim, pretty puddly. There's still quite a few people out. It's taken a little bit longer than I thought, but it's purely having to go a bit slower because of the weather. So we plough on now until we get to the ferry landing, then into South Shields. I get to show you some of the bits that meant the most to me, my mum. Excuse the hair. Big shout out to Maria at Maggie's. So, I don't know what's going on there. I went for a visit to Maggie's through the week to try and buy a t-shirt, and she said, "We're not charging you, absolutely no chance." So I went up and she gave me the guided tour of the centre. I didn't get to go over when we were at the Freeman with my mum. I was getting ready to, and literally the moment just before we were due to leave, that was when she sadly passed away. So I didn't go over. My brother and sister went over,
I think it just broke up the monotony of and the cabin fever of being in the hospital for a full solid week. It was tough, it was really tough. So Maria showed me around and she said, absolutely not, we're not charging you for a t-shirt, you and your family have done so much. She showed me the centre, she showed me all the things that they do and what they're planning, and it's amazing. And thank you to everyone that's sponsored so far, not just me, my family, because we've raised a phenomenal amount of money that I don't think any of us expected. It costs £2,400 to run Maggie's Newcastle for a day. That was the aim, just a day, dedicated on her birthday, happy with that. And we're now in excess of £10,000. It's phenomenal. So anyway, I was at Maggie's Newcastle, picked the t-shirt up, and she was like, oh, I've got something for you. She runs upstairs, comes back down. Said, you can't do a skateboarding challenge without cap, so here we are. And to be fair, today it's an absolute godsend. It really is. So, poncho's going on. Let's get cracking. Right, we're ready. I've put it on. It seems to have stopped a little bit, but we'll see. We'll give it a go. I'll probably sweat. Here we go. Here at the ferry landing. The ferry's over there at South Shields. We are 12 miles in, so another 22 to go. So it'll be about 10-ish around South Shields, and then the same again back up the coast. It's pretty grim. I'm soaked, sweating with having the poncho on as well, but hey ho, it could be worse. We'll get there. So here in South Shields, ferry landing, it is awful. I don't know if you can kind of see that. You can hear it. It's pretty grim. But we got on the ferry, and there was a lady handing out badges for the ferry's birthday, and she came over and she was kind of like, "Are you kind of raising money for Mags? What's the deal with the t-shirt and stuff?" And she's just shared that her mum is going through the same kind of treatment as my mum did. She's got lung cancer, and was kind of sharing stories about kind of treatment and little bits and bobs, and it just kind of goes to show how close to home it is. Like, you don't realise how many people have stuff going on. This lady has been going through similar to us. Thankfully our mum's kind of still going. They've got a treatment plan in place, and it seems to be managed, which is brilliant, absolutely amazing news. But she said she can't believe how much of a help Maggie's are, and it was just really nice. And I think I'd like to think she kind of enjoyed it as well, albeit as grim as a conversation it can be, but just to know that other people go through it or have been through it, and it's how you feel's normal. She said she gave me a birthday badge for the ferry, and then she said, you know, thank you for everything that you're doing. I've seen lots of donations come in as well. I will make sure I kind of thank everybody as well. Now we are off to go round Shields as the ferry badge. I'll speak to you guys shortly. Alright, so first up, I'm here outside the stage door of the Customs House. If you know my family and you knew my mum, you know that Christmas is and always will be the biggest thing ever. Christmas was always a time where she pulled out all the stops. And everybody has a Christmas traditions. Our tradition was and still is the Customs House pantomime on Christmas Eve. Initially started apparently as a way of keeping us out of the house so we didn't trash the place, because she'd just tidied up, and it progressed, and every year we come Christmas Eve. It's a time where she can relax, or could relax, and the shops are shut, nothing else could be done, you could relax. We went out for some food, and we'd come here and have an absolute howl. It was amazing. It was always a bit more relaxed on Christmas Eve as well, so there was a few little adult jokes kind of crept in there that sometimes went over our heads as kids. But now as an adult and bringing my kids, I get them, and it's so good. The cast are amazing. Ray Spence from Tommy the Trumpeter fame is still going strong and does a fantastic job every year. But we come here every year, and we always have. 20 odd years strong now. Used to be a full row E, now it's a full row of wherever we can get. My kids love it, we still love it, and I know my mum did. It was the highlight. It was kind of, she'd worked really hard all year, and then once it got to that point, she could relax and she could enjoy it. And then before here, we'd go for some food somewhere, a local restaurant or wherever, and that was always carnage, because everyone would have to order in advance, and then no one remembers what they got. So it would normally mean you'd have about 10 people all shouting while this little waitress has kind of got an order here that nobody can remember what anybody's ordered. It's absolute carnage, but I wouldn't change it for the world. This place is special to our family, and I think it always will be. If you get a chance, make sure you come. Right, next up on the Tour de Nana is South Shields Fair. I've seen it look busier, but this is home to a couple of really early childhood memories. So one of them being just behind me over there. There used to be a soft play in that cafe, and we'd go and literally play in there. Well, I would play in there, and I would sit and have a cup of tea, and we'd kill hours. It was dead simple. 4 bit underneath and a foam beam thing across the middle. So simple. I'm sure it's called the Lido Cafe or something like that, Crocodile Cafe, something like that. But that was one of them. And then in these amusements behind me, there was a little machine that was always my favourite machine to play on. And it was, you put a coin in, I don't know how much, it was about, you're talking 35 years ago now, if not longer. And this little elephant came through round a circle, went round the back, a little parcel tipped onto its back, and then he wheeled himself all the way around and tipped it out the front, and you got some little bit of tat in the front out in this box. It wasn't anything special, but it was the best thing, and I don't know why, coming up in early 40, I still remember that machine, and so did she. It was one of those ones where we came in. Do you remember that elephant machine? And more recently, we brought the kids, so we brought Foster and Scarlett, and they went on the log flume over on the far side. They went on the roller coaster as well, which they weren't a fan of it. It went a bit too quick. They're definitely my kids, wimps. But they went on the log flume and came off drenched, and they still talk about it to this day as well. So it's not the best fair in the world, but it holds some really nice memories, which is good. The home of football. You can't beat games down here. Poncho's off. Finally, the poncho's off. Seems to stop raining. It's still a little bit moist. So I'm here at probably the house that I remember most from my childhood. Definitely where we had the most memories, and it's that house behind me. Obviously I'm not going to give you the address, but we moved in and we were familiar with the street anyway, because my nana and granddad lived up there, just on one side. And I remember when we got the house, and you know, you see the big side garden and things like that. It was lovely, but there's so many stories about when we moved in and things like. One of the good ones is my granddad, who who was a funny guy. He was lush. Pulled my mum to one side and said, you know, I'm really glad you're moving in down the street. And you know, I was thinking he's being serious and really heartfelt. And, oh, the canny. And then he turned around and said, because me and your mum are thinking about starting a family, we need a babysitter. I mean, it's just, you know, when you go back to places and you think, it seemed so much bigger. Like that street felt so much wider. I remember my granddad going on rollerblades down that street, holding on every fence on the way down. But it's just a lush place. They've obviously put an extension on the back because that top bit wasn't there when we lived here. We had like a little outhouse. And then behind the back was one of the many windows where my brother decided when he was going to run away from home that he was just going to hang out the window. Never did, obviously. But no, it was a lush house. It had so many lovely memories. It's so weird being back. It's lush. If there was ever a street that was kind of synonymous with our family, it's this one. Having my nan and granddad just live up there, and we moved in down the street. It's just lush. It really is. Howdy. So we are 16 miles in of 34 today, so nearing the end of the kind of the journey round South Shields. Got a couple more little stops before we head back to the ferry, and then up the coast. It's taken so far on 3 3/4 hours. Probably slower than I would have thought, but then it's been horribly wet, so fingers crossed, since I took the poncho off, it stayed dry. The ground's starting to dry out a little bit, but there's still puddles everywhere, so kind of feel it's skidding a little bit. But I'm outside my old junior school. The primary school's just up there. Mortimer Junior School. So when I was at school, this wasn't open. The main school that we were at was up the road where the comprehensive is now. And I remember we moved schools because they demolished that old school. We moved into this when it was brand new. I remember being given like a commemorative mug of the old school. But I thought I'd come here because part of the reason is I might be wrong, but I'm 90% sure that Mum was the reason we got school uniforms at the school. I'm sure somebody told me a story, or she might have, that we didn't have uniforms at the old school, so she campaigned to have uniforms at this school, which is what we got. They could have been worse. I mean, there were navy blue joggers and navy blue sweatshirts, so you couldn't really go wrong. But yeah, the more I think about that story, the more it does sound like her. She's all for kind of wanting people to feel equal, nobody to feel kind of less than they should or anything like that. So it definitely sounds like a mum story. Not gonna lie, it's been hard. Like, you don't realise how bad some of the pavements and stuff are. The roads aren't much better, but I think the hardest bit was coming up the bank from the seafront. So my left leg that stays on the board, my thigh was just burning. And then I came down a path which is like a kind of a steady decline, and kind of picked up some speed. Tried to brake, but I put my other foot down, flew off the front of the board. Thankfully I stayed on my feet. Probably looked a bit special to everybody around, but hey ho. So this has definitely opened my eyes to how hard Wednesday is going to be. So Wednesday is a 50-mile round trip to my mum's house in Prudhoe. So that's going to be a fun day. Fingers crossed it's dry. But time for cereal biscuits, some juice, and then we'll crack on. That's my old school. So here outside my old school, my old comprehensive school, St Wilfrid's. It didn't look like that when I was there. A couple of extra buildings down the far end, but I didn't actually want to come to this school. Going to Mortimer Juniors, I wanted to go to Mortimer Seniors, where all the friends were going, and it was the one probably time I really disagreed with my mum. Obviously, it wasn't like major. Ultimately, she always won. It didn't matter. But in fairness, this one she definitely got right. It was a really good school, to be fair. Lots of good memories, but yeah, that was just one part where she's involved in those memories. Another one, it took me until the last 2 years of school to get on the school football team. Every year I'd go to trials. Every year I'd come back really disappointed because I hadn't been picked. And then a change in teacher running the team was taken over by Mr. English, who sadly passed away not so long ago. He picked me, and I remember walking into the house and saying to my mum, say hello to St Wilfrid's new left back, and I just remember being made up. I think she dreaded every year, because every year it ended up in disappointment, and there was nothing she could do. She couldn't fix it. She couldn't go and tell the teachers like pick him, but Mr. English changed it, and that's where I have lots of lovely memories from football, which again involve my mum, which I'll touch on later in the week. But yeah, they're just a couple for here. Next up, round the corner, is the hospital where she used to work. So we're gonna head round there, and then we've got another old house that we used to live at while I was at university, and then back to the ferry. So, South Tyneside Hospital, where all three of us were born. So me, Cam and Bob were all born here. But also where my mum worked nights. She was an auxiliary nurse. So she'd often be holding kind of 2, even 3 jobs at a time. She literally was one of the most hardworking people I've ever known. Like, I genuinely, I don't know how she did it. Like I thought at times, like, I've been tired, and then she would work a night shift, a day shift, then go back and do night and bring kids up. I genuinely, I don't know how she did it. She was an absolutely phenomenal woman, and I think she's, I don't know, it kind of makes you think, like, no matter how hard it is, and she always used to say this, right? No matter how hard it is, someone's always got it harder. And she always used to say that there's always someone that's better than you, there's always someone that's worse off than you, and it's resonated. But she was a grafter, she really, really was. And this was just one of many places. So, one more stop. It's getting a bit cold. The weather's going to start changing now. I've checked the forecast. It looks to be like another hour before it's going to be Poncho o'clock again. So, I'll see you all soon. So I'm here at one of the houses we used to live in. We actually lived in 2 houses on this street. So we lived further up the road at number 160, and we lived at number 50. And one of the stories of this place is they moved. So my mum, Cam and Bob moved while I was at uni. So I was on the metro home from getting the train back from York. Got the metro through from Newcastle, and then I had to ring my mum as I was getting towards Tyne Dock, and was like, "Mum, I don't know where you live." She told me I knew they'd moved, but I didn't know where, so she had to come and get me. But it was here. Seagulls, man. It was here we met John for the first time, and her life changed then massively. Like, I can't say enough good things about John. He is, you know, when you get those people in life and they're just genuinely deep down good people. He's that. He's one of them. He is single-handedly the best thing, or one of the best things that happened to her. And she had so many nice memories after meeting him as well. And the seagulls are ruining this moment. But yeah, so this is where we met. I think Bob flashed him. It's the usual. But yeah, so it's starting to rain again. It's not too heavy just yet, so it might be poncho o'clock soon. So let's get our head down, get back to the ferry, and then 12 miles back up the coast to home. I'll speak to you all soon. Right, last push, about 11 miles to go. We've just come up there, Tanner's Bank. It's a lot easier in the car, and it is absolutely pissing down. It is grim. Right, should we get this done the better? It's a bit wet. I said before it could be worse. It got worse. Head down for home now. Day one done. 34 miles in God knows how many hours. It was definitely longer than it should have been, but when you've got conditions like that for the last 2 hours, if not longer, hell of a lot longer. Thank you for all the donations. Day one done. 4 more to go. See you there.